Welcome back to the whole
Monday.
nine yards here. Drew Pien and Brandon Krikorian on a Monday evening. Brandon, solid week of football. Well, not really, but how's it going?
Well, for me, I guess it was, but not really for you. But it was good. Holidays were good. Christmas, I did with holidays. Good for you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, solid holidays. Got New Year's coming up, which is always cool.
hmm
So, so yeah. As far as football is concerned, a bad holidays for me. Predictions go 1-4. Patriots. The game that I was probably the most confident in the whole year does not go my way. Celtics looking horrible again. Tatum goes on
That,
the COVID list or whatever. It's a health and protocol. So, it's not great for me. I mean, do you want to start off with Bills Patriots quickly?
yeah, we can start there. It's fine.
So, I mean, obviously the Bills win. Bills now control the division. Looks like they're probably going to win it. They have to lose against the either the Falcons or the I forget the other
We're
team.
the
I think it's the
Jets.
Jets. Yeah, the Jets.
The
They have
Jets.
to lose against either the Falcons or the Jets, and the Patriots have to win out against the Jaguars and Dolphins. So Bills are going to win that division probably. I mean, are you sold on the Bills as contenders or?
I would. I'd probably say no. I mean, we saw it in the game. Even though they won and Allen was amazing. I mean, their rushing game just isn't there, and it's that's been their question all year. Is that other than Allen, they have zero rushing attack from Singletary or Moss or anyone else. So unless Allen's just going to be all world these next, however many games, and obviously when the playoffs come, not only in the air but on the ground, I don't see them a real contender. Now, can they win a playoff game? I mean, assuming they win the division, they're going to have a home playoff game. So I would like to say yes, but I could probably only see them winning one game, to be honest, unless they match up with maybe a Titans or someone in that second round that's just not like a Chiefs or someone, then potentially. But not as true contenders, I would say probably not.
Yeah, I don't buy them either. I buy them as maybe a slightly better or slightly different team than the Steelers last year. The team that went 11-0 and then finished like 12-4 or whatever it was, and then pretty much gets eliminated by the Browns in the first round. I think they're better passing wise. I think they're probably slightly worse defensively, but I think as far as the running game is concerned, it's the exact same, which is there is literally no running game. Maybe the Bills have the
Yeah.
fact that they can run with Josh Allen and they can kind of maybe get creative here and there with it, but you're not keeping defenses honest. Like the defenses know you're going to pass. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't buy them as legit contenders either. I guess my quick Patriots thoughts. I still I mean, if I'm the captain of the ship, I guess I'm going down with the ship. I'm still gonna say the Patriots are winning this division. I'm gonna pick Falcons to win outright against the Bills. Um, do I fully believe in that? Held a gun to my head, told me to get this pick right or I die. I mean, I don't know, but
I mean,
I've
I just quickly looked at the spread for that game, and I guess it's early, but it's 14 and a half points.
14 and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big spread.
So, I mean,
It's in
again, it's only been
Buffalo.
one day. It's in Buffalo. And again, it's probably going to change. And I mean, it's not like Matt Ryan's on the COVID. So I don't exactly know why I agree. I think it's too much. I would say probably like 10, maybe 9, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. But I mean, that's almost like, if you're playing like the Jaguars, that's usually what a line is for that. I think the Patriots Jags game is 15 and a half. I think it is. So,
Yeah, the Falcons are definitely a better team than I mean the Jags. Um, I mean, yeah, 14 and a half. I would be tempted to go with the Falcons for that for sure. I'm going to pick the Falcons to win outright. I guess I kind of have to at this point. I mean, I've predicted the Patriots to win the division at least since, middle of the season, but pretty sure I've picked them at least to make the playoffs the whole year, probably to win the division the whole year, I want to say. So, captain's got to go down with the ship. I still buy this Patriots team as contenders. Mac Jones hasn't taken that step that I've needed him to take, and that's why even though I've picked the Patriots to make the Super Bowl, I've said ever since the Chiefs started to look like themselves that I still view the Chiefs as the favorites to win, because had the playoffs started then, or had it start, if it started now, I would have picked the Chiefs to beat the Patriots. And now is about that time when I would have expected Mac Jones to take that step, and he just didn't. He did not. Last game I was expecting him to, 65% completion rate, couple touchdowns, mistake-free game, make the couple throws that you need to make. He didn't do that. He had one bad pick and then another, Hail Mary pick or whatever, which is irrelevant. But yeah, it's tough for me to say that the Patriots are still contenders. I do think they are. I think they can beat anybody on a given Sunday. The defense is still led by Bill Belichick. I'm not going to say it's the most talented defense in the league, because I don't think it is, but I think it has a really high ceiling because of, Bill. You never know when Bill could just write up a, game plan, a masterpiece. But I'm going to pick the Chiefs over the Patriots probably, but I still view the Patriots as contenders. I think they could beat the Bills in the playoffs. If I were the Bills, I wouldn't want to play the Patriots. If I were the Titans, if I were the Colts, I still wouldn't want to play this Patriots team. I'd rather play, whatever other wild card team there is. This is the wild card team I wouldn't want to play. Maybe the Colts. I mean, they're technically probably going to be a wild card team. So, but I wouldn't want to play the Patriots. So.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, it would be Patriots at Bengals and then Colts at Buffalo. So
Yeah, I mean, we get the
that's
better matchup in that for sure, in my opinion.
yeah, and I mean, we already saw what the Colts did to Buffalo in Buffalo. I mean, I wouldn't assume it'd look like that again. I mean, obviously you make adjustments, but that's not a good matchup for the Bills, because if the Colts can get ahead, they're gonna stay ahead, and that means I guess the Bills. I mean, they don't really run the ball anyway, so they're gonna throw it. But at least it's they're more one dimensional, I guess, and you just know they're gonna throw it if you're up. And then again, if the Colts are up, that's where they thrive, because Wentz doesn't have to do as much, and it's all on Jonathan Taylor. So if the Colts get an early lead, that could be a really tough game. But again, maybe the Bills. I mean, the way they played against the Patriots was pretty impressive. Most so Allen, to be honest, I thought he was really impressive. But yeah, Bengals Patriots. That's probably the maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe like that, or maybe Titans is maybe a good matchup. I think the Bengals could be somewhat tough, but Burrow. I mean, he obviously had a huge day, and we're probably going to talk about it. But him first playoff game going against Belichick, I would probably side with the Patriots on that one. As long as Jones doesn't make a mistake, I'd say the Patriots are probably a more organized team and a structured team that is built to win that type of game. So I'd probably side with them. And then again, if you were to play the Titans as well, I'd probably go Patriots there. The Titans are, I mean, we could maybe talk about that Thursday night game, but the fact that the Niners didn't blow them out was ridiculous. I thought that game was over as soon as the Niners went down and scored a touchdown on the opening possession. They went right down the field. I thought that game was over. So the fact that Titans even came back and won that game says a lot about the Niners, and how Jimmy G now he's injured. That news just came out like maybe 30 minutes ago. He injured his thumb, so maybe it's gonna be Trey Lance for these last couple of games and maybe even the playoffs. But that was just a terrible loss for the Niners against the Titans, but a big win for the Titans, because if they lose that one and then the Colts they beat the Cardinals, the Colts could easily win that division. So now it looks like the Titans will win that division though.
Yeah, the Titans should win that division. I'd agree it's a big win. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't pick. To me, I don't view the Titans as a legit contender. I view the Colts as a legit contender, though. Even from the wild card position, I view the Colts as, I've said it the whole year, that I think the Colts are the better team. I don't know at what point I jumped off the. I guess it's now I'm jumping off the Colts are winning the division bandwagon, but I'd kind of predicted it the whole year. It's not going to come true, but I mean, I feel good about my takes on the Colts and Titans throughout the whole year, that the Colts are the better team. So, but I mean, from what we saw watching the Chiefs Steelers game on Sunday, I mean, there's no doubt, and I think anybody's mind the Chiefs are the favorite right now. I think the offense is starting to get back to that point. No, I mean, Hill didn't have to have a big day. He only had 2 catches for 19 yards. Kelsey didn't play. So, and to still just destroy the Steelers team. I know the Steelers are not a good team, and offensively they're just not very good. But I don't see anybody competing with this Chiefs team right now. I still think if Belichick wrote up a masterpiece defensively, that they could compete with the Chiefs. But I mean, in Arrowhead, I don't buy anybody beating this team.
Yeah, I don't. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably pick the Chiefs. But still, I mean, like you said, they played the Steelers. That's just not. It's not a good team at all. The score, it was over in the first quarter. I think they were up. I don't know if it was 14-0 or 17-0, whatever it was, and they didn't even have their kicker in that. Butker wasn't even playing. I think their punter was kicking, or I don't even remember who was. I don't think it was an actual backup kicker though. But that score could have been a lot more as well. They only put up 36. They probably could have put up 45 if they really wanted to. And again, Kelsey wasn't playing. Hill had 2 catches. And now Edwards-Helaire is injured, so we'll see what happens there. They've looked better with him in there than when he's not in there, so maybe that makes a difference. We'll see. But if I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably go Chiefs. The NFC is so stacked that it's hard to choose one team. Now, you'd probably say the Packers, but I mean, they've won these last couple of games, but they've not been impressive at all against, I mean, you sack the Browns 5 times and get 4 turnovers and you win the game by 2 points when they had a chance to win the game on the final possession. That's concerning, considering those stats I just said. So, and you're the home team as well. So that's concerning. But yeah, like I said, if I had to choose a favorite, it'd be the Chiefs, but I'm not totally confident in that. I think in the AFC for sure, but when I get to the Super Bowl, I think it could be tough.
Oh yeah, I was mainly thinking the AFC that the Chiefs
Yeah.
are for sure the favorite in the NFL. Yeah, I mean there are at least two other teams in the NFC that I think are on equal footing with the Chiefs to be the favorites. I think the Packers are there, even like you said, even with that not great win. It's the NFL. Not all your wins are going to be 32-6, but the Buccaneers did get a 32-6 win over the Panthers. I think the Buccaneers deserve to be in that conversation. I mean, even the Cowboys, I think, deserve to probably be in that conversation after that beat down on Sunday night. And I think there's probably, you could argue the Rams too. I mean, the Rams beat the Vikings. You beat the Vikings by a touchdown, and your quarterback throws 3 picks. I think that's, you know, knowing your quarterback is throwing 3 picks. I think you take that every week because that's tough to do. Even the Vikings are still a decent enough team that if you throw 3 picks, you should not win a game against a team like the Vikings. So I think those are probably the three favorites in the NFC. If the Niners had won that game in Tennessee, then I think you could even throw the Niners in there, even though they're a wild card team. They were looking extremely hot up until that game, and you know I think the quarterback. I think it's kind of similar to the Patriots, not the team structure, but the quarterback is just such a question mark. Jimmy G's looked good at times, and other times he really looks like he's a handicap for that team. So what Jimmy G do we get? Do we get the one that makes some really, really just bad throws, just really off the mark, throws 2 picks and kind of costs your team the game? Or do we get the Jimmy G that, is kind of a game manager, but he makes the plays when you need to make them? I think the Niners are gonna are the wild card team in the NFC, other than the NFC. Well, I guess they're still NFC West, but other than the Colts/Rams, they're the second wild card team that I don't think anybody wants to play. But yeah, I mean, I think Cowboys, Buccaneers, Packers are the NFC favorites for sure right now.
Yeah, honestly, I think I may put the Rams at least an equal level as the Bucks. The Bucks just have so many injuries now. I mean, again, Godwin's out for the year. Evans is week to week. Fournette's out at least until the playoffs, and again, who knows until then. Shaq Barrett's now out for the rest of the regular season, and they said he's going to come back for the playoffs, but he's a sprained MCL and ACL. So I mean, I don't. I guess you could play on that, but how effective is he going to be? Even still, that defense really hasn't been as impressive as it was last year. So I think I think they definitely have problems and concerns. Now, again, they have 2 easy games to finish off. They go Jets and Panthers, so I assume they're going to win their last 2 games. Brown has to have a game like he did against the Panthers. Like he's going to have to play like that the rest of the year in my opinion, if they really want to beat some of these teams in the NFC and get back to the Super Bowl. You need Brown to be that number one receiver. Because Evans, he's like a number one, but from your 20-yard line to their 20-yard line, he's not giving you much. If anything, it's a 50-50 ball, and again, it's a 50% chance that it's incomplete or intercepted. He's obviously his main role is in the red zone, so you need Brown to be like 80 to 85% of what he was in his prime, 2015, 2016 with the Steelers. And if he can give you that, then I'll probably have more confidence in them. But we just need to see it. And again, that defense definitely has questions. It's always had questions in the secondary. And now your pass rush, probably your best pass rusher is now down. So I think the Rams and them are on equal levels. Now, again, who do I trust more, Brady or Stafford? Obviously, Brady. I mean, Stafford, three picks against the Vikings, and two of them were terrible. I mean, one of them was at like their own 5 yard line where he just threw it. Like, I don't even know what he was doing. They were lucky they didn't give up more points. Their defense is really turning it up lately. But right now they'd be on equal levels. But if Brown and the offense can, just look a lot better going into the playoffs, then yeah, for sure I'd go Bucks over Rams.
Yeah, I know. I would agree with everything you said. I think AB for sure has to be the number one. I think if I had to pick a most overrated receiver in the NFL, at least off the top of my head, I think I'm going Mike Evans. I just don't think he's. I don't think he's a top 10 guy. I think a lot of people would have him either in their top 10 or close to it. I mean, listen, I have to compare him to other receivers and on that list, but I really don't think he's anything special. I just he's a big guy who can go up and get a ball, but if you ask him to go across the middle and make a tough catch and have to maybe even take a hit after that catch, I just don't trust him, and I don't think Brady trusts him at all. I don't think Brady even likes him, to be honest. I mean, as a person, whatever, but as a receiver, there's no doubt in my mind Brady does not like Evans. I think he would trade Evans for another Brown type in a heartbeat. There's no doubt in my mind. Brady
Yeah.
has no need for a 50-50 ball guy.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, anyways, if you have him, he's at least a good receiver who, we know what he is. So,
But that Bucks game, that was an easy game. We didn't really talk about that. Do we want to talk about our predictions?
yeah, I mean, I guess we should bring him up.
Well, I guess we'll say from the last episode, we said we were going to count the missing 10 games that we had, which I still don't even really know how we missed those 10 games, but we counted it up now. Did you do? Yeah, you did yours. All right. So this is updated all the way through this week. So I'm 48, 31, and 1, and you're 42, 36, and 2. So five and a
Six
half
wins
games.
behind. Yeah, five and a
Yeah,
half
6 wins,
games.
5.5. Yeah. So with only
I'm
10
gonna.
games left.
Yeah. So I had to give myself 5 wins and 5 losses. I just recounted from week one, so I don't know what weeks we missed, but
Yeah, same.
I'll double check again when the year concludes just to, triple check, make sure that everything checks out. But yeah, so I'm six. I need to get 6 wins in the last 2 weeks, which pretty much means I can't pick the same game as you ever. If anything, I
Yeah.
might even have to arguably try to pick as many games as you, but the other side. And that it's gonna take a little bit of luck. It's gonna take a little bit of skill, I guess. I'm not completely out of it, but it's not looking good, which is
No,
unfortunate.
it's not. No. Yeah, I mean, this week was a killer week. The last 2 weeks were killer weeks for you.
2-3, 1-4. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just we both went Packers this week, which I mean, again, 4 turnovers, 5 sacks in Lambeau. Devontae Adams has a huge day. Like that should have been a blowout. Honestly, I still don't understand how they only won by 2 points. But I mean, that one's kind of whatever. I mean, like it was 7.5 points. You're still going against like a good team, anyways. But Arizona, I mean, that one I texted you right before. There was no Quentin Nelson. They were missing 4 starters on their offensive line. No Darius Leonard right before the game. I mean, I'm thinking Taylor's not going to have a big day because you have no offensive linemen. Wentz, you're going to have to rely on Wentz. Can the Cardinals put a good game together? They're way worse at home than on the road for some reason, but still, I mean, like you're at home, you should have the advantage anyways. Again, the Cardinals they're just falling apart. And it's a good time that we play them this week, the Cowboys. But I mean, you probably already know they're going to have a huge day against us. But that was good luck for me because again, I thought that was over. I thought you were going to win that one.
I thought I was too. No Leonard, no Nelson. There were a few other players that were inactive as well. But I mean, Wentz had a much better day yesterday than he did against the Patriots like a week ago or whatever it was. Had Wentz had a similar day to the Patriots game on Sunday, then yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals win this. But yeah, the Colts play better than I thought they would have. The Cardinals, yeah, they're falling apart. I I think maybe we didn't. I don't think either of us. I don't know, because the Cardinals were for sure. They were favorites to at least be the one seed. None of us really predicted the downfall of the Cardinals, though. Neither of us, I feel like, did. We never really necessarily had the Cardinals as favorites, but I mean, I wish that I had gotten ahead of it, and I wish I had predicted that the Cardinals would, for sure not finish as the number one seed. I never really made a prediction like that, but yeah, I mean, if the Cardinals really, really fizzle out this year, like if they're one and done and that one playoff game doesn't look good, then what do you do with Kingsbury? I mean, you bring him back, right? I mean, you have to, I think, but he's
It's
on
a
the hot
question,
seat.
I would say. Yeah.
Like I know no Hopkins, but I mean, this team, after seeing what they can be to end the year, you know, as like a 500 team, lose yourself, lose out on the one seed, and then let's just say you have to go to Dallas or something, and then you lose that game big. That's. I think you get to the
I
point where
mean,
you're very much debating firing Kingsbury.
yeah, I mean, you went from potentially being the one seed, if anything, like the two seed, to not even winning your division. I mean, they're not going to win their division unless the Rams. I mean, I think the Rams play the Ravens and the Niners, I want to say. But I'm going to assume the Rams win that division. You go from losing that division to now being a wild card team where you might even face the Rams in the first round. And then if you're one and done, it's interesting to see if Murray's, again, it comes out at the end of the season that he's injured. It just seems like he is because he's just playing at a way less level than he was before. But I think the injury to Hopkins was huge. I mean, it's now their number one receiver is AJ Green. It's just Hopkins was that number one receiver where Green, you could go to him a couple times a game. Hopkins is probably going to get doubled or at least see, roll coverage over to him. So Green's going to be open. Kirk's going to be open down the field. Ertz in the middle of the field now. So now when Hopkins isn't there, you don't have to really worry about some threat on the outside. You can kind of focus on Kyler in the run game. So I think that was a big injury. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think Kingsbury, if they're one and done, again, you need to see what the better options are out there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's not back because he's gotten you to a good point. But the last 2 years, I think they showed their stats in, I think it was November, December, January. They're like 5-10 or something, or 6-9 or something like that over the last 2 years, and they're like 14-3 or something in the other months. So clearly, there's a problem these last 2 years, and again, a lot of that comes down to coaching.
Yeah, I mean the Rams finish out with, like you said, the Ravens and the Niners.
Yeah.
Cardinals finish out with Cowboys, Seahawks. So I mean, I think there's still potential either one of them could win this division. The division. I think both of those games are relatively difficult, but yeah, I would agree. I think Kingsbury could be out. I would say Kirk, Green, Ertz, no Hopkins. That's probably an average at best receiving core. So yeah, I mean, you could make that excuse. Maybe Kingsbury makes that excuse, and that's what gets him the job back for next year at least. But yeah, I mean, I think when they were what 7-0, 8-0, or whatever it was, I think we were looking at them as there's no way that Kingsbury could end up not having this job next year, and he probably will still be here next year because. I mean, you're not going to go get a Lincoln Riley, obviously. You're not going to get any of those types of guys, really, I don't think. Um, so he probably comes back next year. But this team's just not looking good. And I probably right now would pick them to be one and done against whatever team they play, most likely at least. So
Yeah, again, right now they'd be up against Tampa actually, but it's probably going to be Tampa or the Rams, I would assume, in that, that 4 or 5, whatever way it flips, if it's Arizona 4 or whoever, 4. But yeah, they're probably losing against either of those teams, even if it's Dallas or Green Bay, somehow they're gonna lose. So it's I mean, again, maybe the Rams have the best chance because again, you play them twice, so you just know them. But even then, I think it's gonna be tough for them to get out of that first
depending how that
round.
Cowboys game looks, they might want to play the Cowboys. I think there's an advantage to playing a team in the regular season and then heading into the playoffs as an underdog. I mean, there's the Cowboys still have that same advantage if they just played the Cardinals and they kind of have that film to look back on, and obviously you just played these same guys, but I think that that adds in a little extra element to the game where it's a little bit more difficult to kind of predict. So
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how many plays people that you want to give up because like you might play them in 2 weeks. So it's like you want to run all your plays because this is a big game for both teams. I mean the Cowboys still have a chance to 1 seed and the Cardinals still have a chance in the division. So you willing to give up all your plays to knowing that you might play them in 2 weeks, or are you trying to play a little bit more conservative? So we'll see how it plays out. Again, that's a 4:25 game this Sunday, but um, another team that just completely disappointed me. This is just going off our predictions. We don't have to really talk about the game, but Chargers Texans. I mean, that I don't even know what that game was. The Texans blow out the Chargers. It only ended up being a 12-point game, but that was a 20-point game, really. Chargers got a late touchdown. The Texans had like 25 guys on COVID. They're missing Brandon Cooks, their best receiver. They were just like missing tons of people all over the place. The Chargers, they didn't have Mike Williams. Austin Eckler was out. Mike Williams was like right before the game, which kind of hurt. But even still, you're clearly the more talented team. The Texans, they had a huge win against the Titans, they beat the Titans like 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, or a couple weeks ago. So like they coming off like a win over there, but they got blown out the week before by the Colts. It's like that should be an easy game. You go to 9-6. You're looking a lot better for the playoffs. Now they may not even make the playoffs. So that was just a terrible loss. And again, I think it was 12-10 at one point, and Herbert threw a pick, and then I knew it wasn't going to cover. It just wasn't enough. But if you have anything to say about it, you can. But that was just a terrible game to watch. To be honest, I had to watch some of that.
yeah, I didn't really watch any of it. I watched the highlights on YouTube afterwards, but in the last 6 weeks, the Texans are 3-3 with wins against the
It's not bad.
Titans, Jaguars, and Chargers. Not the best teams necessarily, but I mean solid teams except for the Jaguars. But it's more than I could say I expected from the Texans. I think David Culley was the epitome of like I'm getting hired because literally nobody else on earth wants this job. Uh, so I was kind of expecting this team to be really bad. I thought this team would be the worst team in the NFL, and then they're close. Don't get me wrong; they're still close to the worst team in the NFL. But the Jaguars are for sure worse. There are other teams. The Lions are probably worse. So yeah. But I
I
would
don't
say,
know. I think the Jaguars are the worst team, to be honest.
well, yeah, that's what I said. The Jaguars are worse.
Oh, I thought you said the Lions may be worse.
Well, the Lions are worse than the Texans. Is what
Oh,
I'm
okay. I
saying.
thought you were saying worse than the Jaguars. Okay, okay.
No, I would say the Jaguars are the worst team in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
The one thing this game did help me out with, though, was my fantasy week. At least in one of my leagues, I had Eckler. I have Eckler in this league. Eckler goes out. I get Justin Jackson,
yeah,
and Jackson goes off for 30 plus points. And I'm gonna be pretty much because of his performance, more or less. I'm gonna be going to the championship round, which is big. $20 buy-in for the league. So second place makes his money back. So worst case, I make my money back.
yeah.
Best case, I'm coming out with, you know, whatever it happens to be, a decent amount of money. So, which is cool. And this team was not perfect. I mean, I don't really want to get into it, but my quarterback for the whole year was like Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. So to make it to the
Yeah.
championship feels good with two kind of really just bad quarterbacks. Specifically, Darnold was awful, but we don't have to talk about Darnold. I'll probably have to end up talking about Darnold at the end of the year. So,
Yeah, that
but
was hey, he had a big patch in that Bucks game though. I guess it didn't equate to anything, but
better than
um
Cam Newton.
yeah, I don't know why Cam Newton's still starting, but um uh that was that game. Again, just a really bad game to watch, to be honest. I mean, you picked the Falcons -5.5. Do you want to talk about it or?
Well, I mean, I thought, I was like, oh, this game's pretty close, but the Falcons should pull it out. The Lions end up getting a pretty late field goal, which brings the Falcons lead down to 4. And when it was down to 4 and I saw the Lions had the ball late in the fourth, I was like, okay, so there's pretty much no way it goes into overtime. the Lions probably either lose by 4 or win by 3, and it's game over. Uh, Unfortunate. You'd assume the Falcons, would win by more than 4 against Tim Boyle, but no. I thought
No,
that was a game that I should have won that. Well, not should have, but I thought I had that one. It was a game I was confident in. Didn't turn out my way, but yeah,
yeah.
it was a pretty bad game over. I mean, those are two bad teams, so
Oh yeah, no, I didn't watch any of it. I only looked at it because I saw it was 20-13, and I was watching Red Zone, and I hadn't seen that game come up in a while, and I was just as soon as I checked my phone, it came up on Red Zone. And it was the Lions kicking that field goal. So I mean that was just huge for me because I thought the Falcons were at least going to cover that. I mean, I didn't think they weren't going to win, but the cover, I thought for sure they were covering that. And there was a point where the Patriots were coming back. It was 26-21. They were up 7. So I was thinking, all right, Falcons may get one. Patriots may come back in this game. It was only 2.5, so they still could have covered if they could have won. So I was thinking, all right, that could be 2 wins, at least 1 win, but 2 wins potentially. The Chargers one wasn't going to hit. The Rams were choking against the Vikings. So for a second, it was looking really bad for me and good for you, at least for a second. But then, like you just said, the Lions kicked the field goal. Obviously, the Patriots don't come back, and the Rams hold on. So again, that's where it flipped this week, and again, maybe for the season, that's where it flipped. But
yeah, I mean, I had a bad feeling about this week when the Cardinals didn't win. I still thought and this was a week I was kind of confident in. I mean, I wasn't, Packers Browns. I at least knew the Packers are going to win that game. The 7.5 is 7.5, but after the COVID stuff, I was feeling confident the Cardinals. They end up losing that game. And I thought, okay, well, I'm 0-2 right now. Brandon's 1-1. I can still come back because I'm confident the Patriots can win this game. The Falcons should cover 5.5, and we'll see what happens with the Cowboys. And the game that I was probably the least confident in over the whole week, I end up hitting on, which is Cowboys winning by 40 against Washington.
yeah,
But yeah, a bad week for me, and this could be it. I mean, this could be. I might have to create that Google slide, this weekend or whatever, or this week. But I still got a Hail Mary at it. I may have to, when we get to the last week, I may have to literally pick the same games as you and just take the other team. That might be what I have to do to win. We'll see. I'm gonna pick the games that I feel confident in this week, but I mean I can't pick any of the games you pick. So I have to see what you pick pretty much. If you pick a game that I want, I mean that's just I can't pick that one pretty much. I need a little bit of luck to go my way. So I'm gonna have to probably pick a couple coin flip games. Looking at next week's, I could probably think of a couple games that you're gonna take. I probably can't take those. I think I'll have free reign on the Cowboys game though. I don't because I think you've said that you're not really gonna. At least you don't want to pick that game.
No.
So I could probably have free reign on that game.
I wouldn't even touch that game anyway.
I don't think I would either though. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Texans 49ers I think is a game that I would look to pick the Niners depending on the spread. But that's probably a game you're going to look at. So if you go with the Niners, then I mean I'm not going with the Texans. So.
Well, I mean, right now it looks like Trey Lance could be starting that game. So
even with Lance, I mean, if anything, if that makes the spread smaller, then I might even go. That made me make me more tempted to go with the Niners because, I mean, if you're telling me the Texans are going to finish off the year as a plus 500 team, I don't believe it. So I would really be willing to bet on the Niners in that game. Eagles Washington, I mean, the Eagles have looked really good. So, but that's a game that you might take. So, we'll see.
yeah.
But
in the Eagles, I mean, all the Eagles stuff I've been seeing lately, I guess. I mean, they've been playing well for sure, and their ground game's been carrying them. I mean, they've rushed for like 200 yards or whatever. But I mean, you got to look at some of the teams that they're beating. I mean, one, they lost to the Giants 13-7. Then they beat the Jets. They beat Washington. They won everyone out with COVID, and then they beat the Giants again. So I mean, not saying they're not a bad team for sure, but they definitely have to play some better teams for me to actually think that they're a good team and at least capable of doing anything. Now, right now they're the 7 seed, which Out of those potential teams that are there, which would be Eagles, Saints, they play tonight against the Dolphins. That's a boring game, but it could actually mean something. The Dolphins are actually still in the AFC East championship contention. I mean, will they win it? No, but they're still in there. But um, you have the Saints, you have the Vikings. The Vikings play the Packers this week. That's gonna be a really tough game. Hopefully they win, so Dallas get the 1 seed, but that's gonna be a tough game. Again, they'll probably end up getting that 7 seed. I would say them or the Saints, in my opinion. But I don't think any team's afraid of them in the playoffs. I mean, if you get to a 10-0 lead, the game's over because then you're forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, and that's exactly what you want. But yeah, no, I mean, for sure, they've definitely. I mean, you got to give them credit. I did not expect them to be close to 500 this year, and the fact that they're probably going to finish above 500 is it's pretty impressive, to be honest.
No, I would agree. I mean, I think the Eagles were like a team that I think everybody kind of either thought or assumed they would be a bottom team. I had them as a bottom of the barrel team. Maybe not as bad as like the Lions or Jaguars, but I had them as like that 4 or 5 win team that maybe looks competitive in a couple games, but really doesn't have anything going for them. They're probably going to make the playoffs. But I mean, the 7 seed, well, okay, so the 7 seed is a couple things. One, no matter who makes it, I am not picking them at all in a game. I don't like any of the options for the 7 seed unless the Niners fall to the 7 seed. I don't like any of these options. I don't think the Eagles are good, like you said, even though they've been playing well. I would agree with you. I don't think they're good. The Vikings, I don't think they're good. And the Saints and the Falcons, I don't think they're good. I think all those teams actually control their own destiny. If the Falcons win out, they will make the playoffs because they'll beat the Bills and they'll have to beat the Saints. I'm not telling you I'm picking it, but I'm telling you that if they were to win out, they probably do make the playoffs because 9-8 probably gets you in.
And potentially, if the Niners, Eagles, and Saints were to all finish with the same record, the Niners would the Eagles would have to win out, and I think the Saints would have to at least win 2 out of 3. They'd have to finish at least 9-8. But if they were to all to finish 9-8, San Francisco would be the team left out. So the Eagles and the Saints would actually make it because of conference record. Right now, the San Francisco is 6-5. Philly 6-4, then the Saints are 5-5. But obviously, if they were to win, they play the Dolphins AFC team, but their last two are against NFC teams. So if they were to win those two, the conference record would matter. But that would actually be that'd be the craziest thing if the Niners actually didn't make the playoffs, and then if you're the 2 seed or 3 seed, you'd be happy either spot because you would play the Eagles or the Saints, and the Saints would be tougher because of the defense, but even still, you're going against Taysom Hill at quarterback. I mean, that's a perfect matchup.
This is actually interesting because the Niners have a tough schedule. I know they play the Texans next week, but they have to go to LA to play the Rams to finish off the year. And that's a game that the Rams are going to have to play, I'm pretty sure. Most likely they're going to have to actually play
Yeah,
they're
I
going
would
to have
say
to play
so.
their starters. So that's a game that's going to be tough. Um, the Saints, I mean, they play a pretty easy schedule. They're home against the Dolphins tonight, like you said. You'll probably have watched the game. Whoever's watching this, you'll probably have watched the game before you watch this podcast, so you'll know the results to that. If the Saints do win that, which I think they probably should win that game, I mean it's a toss up, but if they do win that game, they have a really easy. I mean they go home against the Panthers and then at the Falcons. So the Saints can kind of control their own destiny here for the wild card. And then the Eagles, they can afford to lose one of either Washington or Dallas. So if the Saints win out, even if they only win 2 of the 3, they're going to be 9-8. Eagles win out, and then Niners lose to the Rams, and then beat the Texans. The Niners would be out. So it's actually
Yeah,
like, I mean, you could argue you could even pick that. I don't think I'm going to because I still believe that the Niners are they're just a way better team than those two teams. But I mean, that goes to show that the division you're in matters so much. Not only because you're playing these teams twice a year, but in a tiebreaker situation like this, the Eagles get their conference record boosted by the Giants, Washington, the
yep.
Niners. I mean, I know the Seahawks haven't looked great this year, but that's a team that in your division, that Seahawks team. If the Seahawks are the worst team in your division, I don't think you're happy about that at all. So it's unfortunate for the Niners, but they could
Yeah,
easily miss out.
and they lost the Seahawks both times. I mean, your worst team in the division. I think Wilson did play both those games, but even still, he hasn't looked good anyways. And again, they're really not that good of a team. So, you at least had to split one of those games because again, the Cardinals and the Rams are obviously better than them. So, yeah, again, there is a potential that they could miss the playoffs. Now, will it happen? Probably not. But again, it's there. But another thing is just for the top teams in both conferences. Let's say all the top teams just win their next game. So the Chiefs, they're still a game up on the Tennessee in the win column, and then Green Bay is still a game up on all the other teams. I don't think any team can afford to rest their players in the last week because if the Packers were to lose and the Cowboys, Rams, Bucks, whoever were to win and end up with the same record, at least if it was the Cowboys, they'd have a better conference record than the Packers, so they'd be the one seed. So the Packers can't afford to rest anyone. The Chiefs, if they were to end up with the same record as the Titans, obviously the Titans beat them, so they'd be the number one seed. So I don't think any team can really afford to rest. At least the top seeds can't afford to rest players for the last week. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Typically, every year we see the top one of the
Yeah,
top seeds rest their players. So this year it's a little bit different. We'll probably end up seeing, whether it's the 4 seed in the AFC or the 3 seed in the NFC or the 6 seed in the AFC or 5 seed in the NFC. We'll probably see one of those teams rest their players, but yeah, we may only see one or two teams actually rest their players, and it probably won't be the top seed in the conference, which is interesting. But I think that's probably going to be the norm. I think that's going to be the norm is the 1 seed's going to be really really contested because you can't be content with being the 2 seed. The difference between the 1 and the 2 seed and almost every year is going to be really immense because the bye versus not the bye versus also you want home field in the conference championship, assuming the 1 seed makes it, which most years they will. They will win that divisional game. So
yeah, exactly. And I guess in the NFC, you can afford to at least settle for the 2 seed. Because again, you play the Eagles, Saints, whatever. But again, the AFC, right now it's Baltimore, but that could change and that could be LA. Could even be the Raiders still. It could be Miami. If Miami wins tonight, I believe they jump up to the 7 seeds. They beat Baltimore. So I guess those games are easier. But again, Baltimore, even though they haven't looked good at all, but if Lamar is back in there, I think it's for sure at least a game. It's at least somewhat
that's a scary
of
team.
yeah. It's at least like you never know Lamar. Now he hasn't been great in the playoffs, but again, he can just have a game where he has a great game on the ground. You just can't stop him on the ground. Maybe their defense steps up in one game. So that's a potential, and it's definitely a scary team to play because again, you just never know with Lamar. But it's the AFC is a lot harder, the 2-7 seed than obviously the NFC where you're facing a team that not an automatic win, but as long as you don't make a mistake, you're going to win that game. But yeah, it's definitely a weird year where there's and again, it's the race to the number one seed. If it's a huge advantage to have that bye, it just is. And if you miss it, it's not like you wasted guys trying to get it, but you may be more tired. You may just have maybe more injuries, whatever. So it's definitely there's definitely a risk to trying to go for the 1 seed if you don't get it.
Yeah, I think especially with Green Bay, like there's just no way anybody can, be okay with wanting to Lambeau in my
Yeah,
mind. I know you get the pretty easy first round matchup, but there's probably this 70% chance you're going to Lambeau if you win the divisional round. So,
yeah,
and I don't think anybody, even though the Bucks did it last year, it took career stretches from Shaq Barrett. Maybe not a career stretch for JPP because he's had good playoffs, but at least up there for JPP, at least the best he's ever looked with 9 fingers. So, and I don't think you can really, you can't expect that, especially with Barrett being, probably, a shell of himself the rest of the year. So,
yeah, exactly. But I mean, was there any other game you want to talk about? I mean, I guess we can talk about Joe Burrow. Do you want to talk about, I guess,
yeah,
what he
I mean,
did?
sure. Yeah, the Ravens de- not only depleted in the secondary and depleted on the whole team, but not only is Lamar going to get ruled out for that game with his injury, but Huntley ends up getting put on, the injury list with non-COVID related illness, and then I think they find out shortly after that it is COVID, so he gets placed on the COVID list. They got to bring in Josh Johnson, who has actually been in the league for quite a long time. Like I remember in some of the early Maddens, or not early for early for me at least,
Yeah,
that he was a guy that I would consistently see in when I was very little, doing like franchise mode or whatever. I was surprised to even who was he playing for the Ravens earlier this year? He was playing for a different. I
He was
forget
playing for
what
the Jets.
was it the Jets. He was playing for the Jets earlier this year. Plays for the Ravens today or yesterday. Um, it just you're down so many guys. Not only are you down Lamar and then Huntley, you have no Dobbins obviously the whole year. You have to run out Devontae Freeman, who is just an absolute shell of himself. Latavius Murray, you know, your only thing you have going for you offensively is Mark Andrews. Marquise Brown's an okay piece, but I think the quarterback really needs to be good for Marquise Brown to even look all right at times. Bateman's still a rookie. And then defensively, I mean, you've just got, no Marlon Humphrey is just killer. It's killer. So, obviously Burrow has a career day. That's probably going to be the best game he ever plays statistically, at least in terms of yards. He may end up beating it in completions or touchdowns, but I'd be surprised if he ever throws for over 525 yards again in a game. Although, I mean, I could see him doing it because he's that good of a player. But yeah, I mean, it really just came down to the Bengals had a really good day, and their team that still has been inconsistent, but they had a really good day, and the Ravens, to ask them to win that game with your third string quarterback who probably knows 30% of the playbook, a running back who was good for maybe 1 year, and then a defense that doesn't have their best player. That's just the Ravens can't win that game. So Bengals look like they're going to win the AFC North, which literally I don't think anybody predicted. I don't think literally a single soul on earth outside of Cincinnati predicted that the Bengals would win the division. It's going to happen, most likely. So that's crazy to me. I'm happy to see it. I mean, I'm happy for Bengals fans because that is probably the cheapest, at least in my mind. I couldn't, I'd have to fact check it, but to me, if you made me guess the cheapest team in the NFL, I would go with Cincinnati, probably. And yeah, for them to win that division, it is crazy. I mean, that might be. I mean, what's a bigger shocker, the Bengals winning the division, or let's just say the Cardinals were to win that division? What would be a bigger shocker to me? It'd be the Bengals.
Oh yeah, I would say Bengals for sure because at least the Cardinals like last year showed you that they have the potential. It's just like you just worry about the other teams in the division, but like the Bengals just haven't showed you anything. And then again, you have the Ravens and the Browns, and at least the Steelers are still competitive. So yeah, I would say for sure the Bengals.
And let's just say the Bengals do win this division. We'll say they go. I mean, we'll say they. I gotta check their last 2 games, but let's just say they win out. They finish 11-6.
They go
Okay,
they go
okay.
Chiefs
Let's say they
Browns.
lose the Chiefs then.
So
Let's say they go 10-7. I mean, who's coach of the year? If the Bengals win the division and they go 10-7, we're going to assume the Patriots don't win the division. I feel like it's tough to pick the Bill Belichick for coach of the year if he doesn't win the division.
no.
I mean, it's Zach Taylor, right? I mean, if Kingsbury doesn't win the division, if Belichick doesn't win the division, it probably comes down to Zach Taylor, Andy Reid, and probably Matt LaFleur if they stay at the 1 seed. That's probably your 3 coach candidates for coach of the year.
Yeah, I would probably say Zach Taylor. Again, if they're 10-7, which they probably will. I mean, maybe they beat the Chiefs, but probably not. If they're 10-7, they win the AFC North, which again they probably will. That I would say for sure him. Because again, it's so unexpected. I mean, you just like the Packers again. They've been 13-3 the last 2 years. Andy Reid, Chiefs, obviously. So it's tough to be those two. I mean, maybe if the Dolphins finish 10-7, like maybe you can give it to Brian Flores, considering they were 1-7. But even still, I think Zach Taylor would probably get it.
I mean, they'd have to win the division for me because I can't like give you somebody credit for starting out 1-7. It's kind of why I wouldn't give it to the Chiefs because I mean they were like 3-4. So I mean I know they're the
Yeah.
1 seed, but they don't have, Andy Reid obviously doesn't have the narrative going for him. Yeah, it sucks because my Belichick Coach of the Year prediction was looking really good for a
It
while
was.
until.
It was looking
I
good.
think he can still get it if the Patriots somehow win the division, which pretty much requires the Falcons to beat the Bills next week, which I think there's probably like a 5 to 10% chance of that happening, if that. And then even with that 5 to 10% chance, there's still probably like a 20% chance the Patriots lose to the Dolphins at Miami the week after this week. So the chances the Patriots win that division are probably around 4% in my mind. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I
those are
think
completely arbitrary numbers, but
Yeah, I think I did see something though that said if they lost yesterday, it was like before the game that they still had a 12% chance at winning the division. I think it was, or
Yeah,
it probably
that's
was. I think it
yeah.
was like twelve
I
percent.
saw that. That's too high for me. Even that's still too high for me. I mean, the Bills have an easier schedule, and the Patriots have a tougher one, and the Bills obviously still keep the tiebreaker. So I would have it at like 4%.
Yeah, but that was I guess that was Burrow. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Burrow. They even took a 32-yard touchdown away from him on the like their last possession of the game, so he could have even had 5 touchdowns and what like 560 yards or whatever. But yeah, that was a crazy game. I guess probably the last game. I mean, there's the Broncos Raiders game, but I don't even want to talk about that. That game was terrible. Another bad game, but turned in like at least turned out like a good ending was the Bears Seahawks game, snow game, which was kind of weird to see in Seattle, but snow game there. Nick Foles starting this game. Fields is out, and then Dalton, I just don't think was ready to play this game or whatever. But Foles had a pretty good game. I mean, 250 yards, 1 touchdown. Wilson still doesn't look right. He had the big pass to Metcalf, which at least looked normal. But even still, like he just something's not right. Again, I think his head's just out of Seattle. I think when the season's over, he's going to demand a trade or whatever's going to happen there. He's just going to be out of Seattle, in my opinion. But I don't think this has anything to do with like the injury and like how it's going to affect him in the future. I think his mind and body is just done with this team. To be honest, so I think he's not really caring. But yeah, the Bears. I mean, this was a game. Two teams that don't have their first round pick, so it really like if I'm a team without a first round pick and I'm like clearly 4 wins or whatever, I just want to win every game because you don't have your first round pick. Like you might as well just win as many games as you can because why would you want to give another team a better pick? But that was a crazy last sequence. I mean, Jimmy Graham, just a 50-50 ball, and then the 2 point conversion was one of the craziest catches you'll see. But yeah, that was just a nail in the coffin, in my opinion, for Russell Wilson being in Seattle. I already think it was going to happen, but I think that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think about. This game to me was the only reason I cared about this game was literally because I have Wilson on my team. That Wilson Metcalf touchdown, I have both of those guys on my team, so that was nice. But you know, these teams are both bad. I still think there's a solid chance that Wilson stays with Seattle purely because the teams that that he'd want to go to. I mean, does he really want to go to New York? I mean, I get it. If he does, I get it. And his wife may want to go there too. Whatever,
CR.
Ciara. But
I think New Orleans is actually a good spot for him.
I think New Orleans is
That
a
would,
good spot. But I
their cap
mean,
situation
the
is
cap
kind of tough.
situation's not great. That offense. I mean, Kamara is a running back.
They get
How
Michael
many years does
Thomas
he have
back.
left? Michael Thomas, maybe the second most overrated receiver, in the NFL. I don't mind Michael Thomas, but to me, that team is like, without Drew Brees, how good is Michael Thomas? I know you're getting Russell Wilson, but if that chemistry's not there to start at least, how good is Michael Thomas? He's good, but Kamara, like all running backs, you just never know. He could either fall off, he could either be injured half the year, like pretty much half the running backs are injured half the year. That's just the reality. So, you don't know how many games you have him for. The defense, while it's good, I mean, I don't think that defense is a defense that I look at for next year and say this is going to be a good defense. I could see them being a bad defense. I could see that being a bad team next year, even with Wilson. I don't think there's like a great team that fits him really well that he would want to go to. I think Denver maybe, but I mean, even then, it's
Denver.
like, I mean, I don't know how much better does that team get with Russell Wilson. I know that they were decent enough this year with Bridgewater,
I
but
mean, considering the fact they're in the AFC West, which is one of the tougher divisions, and they're 7-8 with Bridgewater and Drew Lock, I think rather Wilson or
but um,
Rodgers. I still think Rodgers is a good chance of going there. I think I'm not saying they'd be the best team in the AFC, but I think they'd be right up there. I think they would for sure be in the playoffs and they'd have at least a chance to do something. Not saying they'd make a Super Bowl, but they'd have a chance to do something. That defense is really good for how young it is, and they have weapons on the offense. And again, you put a guy like Wilson or Rodgers in there, it makes a big difference.
it makes a big difference. But they're not the favorites to win the division in my mind. The Chiefs are still the favorite to win that division. The Chargers should theoretically only get better. The Raiders, you know, with
Mm.
an actual head coach for the whole year, that could be a good team, at least a competitive team. And the Broncos, if they get Wilson, then I don't know. To me, it's not a great fit. I think it made a lot of sense when Manning went to the Broncos. I think you had a lot of pieces there, and I thought that team was, on the up for sure. And then, he goes there and sets the touchdown passing record, gets all the way to the Super Bowl, wins one Super Bowl. I think you want a team like, that's set up like that. And I'm not sure I don't think this Broncos iteration is really that right now. I don't think the Saints are that right now. I don't think the Giants are that right now. I'm not sure. And I think Russell Wilson probably is 50-50 in whether he wants to leave right now or not. But I think it's really tough for a quarterback to leave a team. And, I know Brady left, but it took 20 plus years, and it pretty much took Bill Belichick being really arrogant and just, it takes a lot for a quarterback to really leave a team. So, of that talent.
The thing I'll say for the Broncos is that they've been terrible at drafting quarterbacks. And again, this draft doesn't seem like a good quarterback draft. So, and again, there's not really a free agent out there. And again, you have the team that has the potential to be there. So I think you should have to do something. You at least I think you got to make a move to do something, whether it's Wilson or Rodgers. I think you got to get one of those two guys. Because again, you're going to be a better team with those guys there. They're going to get a new head coach. Fangio's not going to be there next year. So whoever, if you want to get a quarterback, maybe, he could bring in a guy, or you get someone that complements him, whatever it is. So I think they have multiple options. And I think they're a team that, again, if you get one of those guys, you're looking at double-digit wins, and you're at least looking at competing in that division. Now, obviously the Chiefs are better, but, you're at least competing there, and you're making the playoffs. You're, depending on your matchup, you could win a game. You can maybe make a run especially if you have Rodgers. He's obviously the better quarterback, but I think they have the pieces in place. Maybe not the same as when Manning first got there, because you had Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, and McGahee was in the backfield then. You obviously had the defense still, but Decker there also. But I think they're somewhat close. I think they're just younger than that team. It's like almost like 2 years. Like this team is like 2 years before Manning got to that team almost. Like you have Sutton and Judy on the outside. You have Chubb on their defensive line. He's obviously a stud. He's got to stay healthy. You have Surtain in the back with Simmons as a safety. So, they have Pro Bowlers and potential guys on their team. It's just you need the quarterback. Because, again, if you look at all the teams that are going to make the playoffs, maybe there's a couple exceptions, but the teams that have true championship expectations, they all have a top quarterback in the league. Packers, Bucks, Cowboys, Rams, Chiefs, like they all have top quarterbacks in the league, and that's what you need to compete for a championship.
I would agree. I'm just not sure that the Broncos are there yet. That's my only question, and it takes a lot for a quarterback to leave. I think it's a possibility. I'm just not as sold on it as you are. I still think there's a very solid chance that Wilson comes back with Seattle next year. Maybe with Carroll, maybe not with Carroll, but yeah.
Just 5 minutes ago, news about Jimmy Garoppolo. He suffered a right thumb UCL tear along with a fracture. So that sounds like he's out for the year.
Then I think you get into the territory where you're starting to look at, the Niners missing the playoffs potentially. I still like them against the Texans with Lance, but that's a huge hit. But I think it's a solid chance. It's not great, and I think this team did have a chance. I think, the Niners could have won a Super Bowl with Garoppolo. I don't know that they can with Lance. I don't think they can. They're not. They can't. I'm gonna say they can't.
No.
But it's a good way to transition into next year. I think Lance has saw very limited action this year, but you give him a couple games in the regular season, you get him to play with house money in the postseason, and then you go into next year, full off season as a starter. Bunch of reps with the first team guys. You start to build your team around Lance. You're going to have probably 3-4 more years right now with a very good contract. So you got 4 years where you can pay pretty much everybody but the quarterback, which is ideal. You just got to hope Lance is good. And if Lance is good, then, you got a very, very solid 4-year gap to go and make a push for at least one Super Bowl.
Yeah, it all depends on Lance. Like that, again, that's a huge gamble moving up the way they did to take Lance. Obviously, sit him the first year, obviously, unless an injury happened. But because you have the championship level team, and you didn't have to pay him for 3 or 4 years, so it's a huge gamble. Because if it doesn't work out for him, then you just set yourself back a couple years.
A lot again. Of years.
Yeah, a lot of years because you have to get another quarterback. You have Debo, you have Kittle, you have Bosa. They have a lot of pieces. Fred Warner as well. Again, they're not really paying a lot of people now. They're gonna have to pay Bosa. They're gonna have to pay Debo. They're gonna have to pay Kittle. I think Kittle's already been paid, but they're gonna have to pay some of those guys. But again, that doesn't really matter for your cap. It's mostly the quarterback that matters for your cap, anyways. But and again, they have offensive linemen. Trent Williams is arguably the best offensive lineman in football. So they have the pieces, but again, if Lance doesn't work out again this year, whatever. If they lose in the playoffs, or you can't really fault them. Again, they have Lance there, but next year you would expect you expect him to be like on the rise to being one of the top quarterbacks. Using his legs and using his mobility on the run, you'd expect him to develop into that next quarterback that can at least elevate that team to wins. You're not relying on the team to win, you're relying on the quarterback to win, which is what they're expecting of Lance in the next coming years.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, this is whatever, but I would say Williams is fighting for the second best offensive lineman in the league. But, I'm saying that Nelson, I think at this point, has solidified
Oh,
himself as the best lineman in the league, even though he's a guard. Even though he's a guard.
yeah, I mean that's where the distinction comes in. Tackle versus guard. Now I could say Zach Martin's up there as well. I mean, based off age, yeah, Nelson I think is 26, 20. I think he's 26 years old. Williams is like 34 or 35, however old he is. But technically, graded wise, he is the best offensive lineman. But yeah, I mean, guard. I mean, obviously tackle is way more important than guard. But yeah, I mean, you could say Nelson's number one. I don't think it really matters. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. I think whoever you want to put in number one, it doesn't really matter to me. But yeah, that came out just a couple minutes ago. So yeah, we'll see. And again, they might not even make the playoffs. We talked about the scenario where they don't, but I still think they probably would. But they'd for sure have to beat the Texans. Just to give you, even though it's not an NFC game that you'd win, it's an AFC game, obviously. You at least got to win that one, because if you lose that one, you're probably not beating the Rams with Lance. So yeah, they for sure have to win this week if they actually want a chance for the playoffs. But we'll see.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much wraps up this episode. Appreciate everybody stayed to the end. If you want to see more, feel free to like, comment with all that stuff, subscribe, check out the Clips channel. I'm going to be coming out with the Patriots episode at least in the next couple days. I don't know if you came out with the Cowboys one yet or not, but I'm assuming that'll be out in the next couple days as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, quick NBA thing, I guess, but I was going to say that the 76ers, I think they could use, a guy who plays really good on ball defense and is an elite playmaker. Do you think you'd agree with that, or
is he 6'10" and
he's about 6'10"?
left-handed?
He's Australian. Yeah,
They
and
could use him.
I will say that I think from this year, I mean, we haven't seen Simmons, but I want to get to the territory where I convince myself Simmons is the most underrated player in the NBA.
I see what you're saying and the path you're going, but at the same time, he can't score. So, and I know defensive ability and the playmaking and the size and the length is huge. And he's super important to be a number 2 or number 3 on a team like that. He's insane to have, but he just can't score on his own. And I think that's just huge. When it comes to the playoffs, if he's going to be your number 2, he has to score on his own. If he's going to be on the floor by himself without Embiid, he has to be able to run an offense and be able to create his own shot. And again, that he just can't do that. So I see what you're saying, but I don't fully agree.
Sure. I mean, I could get behind what you're saying. That I mean, I would agree. I think in the regular season, that's not as much of a problem. But yeah, like you said, in the playoffs, I would agree that's a problem. You're in a tough spot, but yeah, I am getting close to the point where I want to, at least try to convince myself Simmons is the most underrated player. Because, I mean, I guess I haven't thought about who else it would be. Maybe you could make an argument for like John Morant as the most underrated player. I think I could potentially get myself to that argument.
Yeah, I don't know. I had to think about it. I don't know. I mean, when Ja was injured, the Grizzlies were technically better without him. Not saying that they are better without him, but they played better without him. So I think there's that argument as well. But I think Ja's up there. I think I'd have to think of people, but I mean, honestly, even though he just won the MVP, I mean, Jokic is up there. No one talks about Jokic. I mean, he's a monster. He puts up 25, 14, and 8 every single game, and no one talks about him. So honestly, I mean, it's probably maybe not the correct choice, but I think Jokic is probably up there.
Yeah, Jokic should be up there as well. But anyways, that was just a quick It wasn't even an NBA thing. I just wanted to say that. I think the 76ers could use a 6'10" point guard with an elite defensive presence and elite playmaker. But anyways, we'll be back next probably next few days. Goodbye.